We have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coons. The white man that go nuts if he can't shoot. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Ahmadiyyah.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Ahmadiyyah.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, even to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Ahmadiyyah.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Ahmadiyyah.
oppression and exploitation.
Every time open a sex game, my kick, the words, my faith, can't even only be money saves. It's like an earthquake, don't follow you out. Create a close to head, just get it from your back. Such a nice place, just a more for all.
All right, Grand Rising, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dr._A_Shakur, TikTok at Dr. A. Shakur, and Twitter at DGoddess27. And as per usual, if you don't like what the Queen is cooking, you already know what to do. Okay, so let's get into it. Hello, Claudette, Rashid, Red Wine Entertainment, Buckhorse DC, Nessie X, Nita's and Mike's World, Pearly is in the house. Okay, Cookie, Jeff ATL is here. All right, let's get into it. Sandra, my Aunt Egypt, April. All right, Pincy Lola. Okay, so let's get this party started. Bobby Wright. Samantha. Okay, shout out to my moderators putting in work. Shebrew Copper, I see you, beloved. All right, so let's go ahead and get it started. Now, so I came on a little bit later than usual this morning, and that's because Trump is supposed to be meeting with Biden at 12 p.m. So I want us to watch that. Hey, G from the land, Brand Slayer, all hell nah. So with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is these tariffs. Okay, I don't know why, but I had a dream about Trump's tariffs plan last night. And so when I woke up, I said, okay, I got to talk about it. So the best way for me to explain it to you, I figured to show you a PowerPoint. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. I'm going to pull up this PowerPoint. Now, sometimes, for whatever reason, my PowerPoints crash every now and then. So if it does, we'll still show it. I'll just have to go to my email to share the screen. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, here we go. Let me make sure you all can see that. Okay, so let's talk about it. Will Trump's tariff plan actually work? So Trump says that he's raising the tariffs specifically for Chinese imports. Okay, now is this a good idea or could this be inflationary? So tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, when imports reach US, China has already received payment for their goods. So, for example, let's say if you're an artist and you want to build a sculpture that you need to use steel, okay, or you're in constructing of a building or something like that, right? So, what do? Well, you would likely want to get your steel from China because China is the largest manufacturer of steel. So China is the largest producer of steel. So you plan to import this steel from China. Okay. So you'll pay them for the steel, but you'll pay the US government the tariff. So Trump is saying that, oh, I'm going to punish China by charging them higher tariffs and all of that. But actually, if you're ordering from China, you're getting purchasing products produced in China, you're the one that's going to pay the tariff. So if Trump follows through with this plan on tariffs, this would cost American consumers more because the cost of the tariffs would be added to the total cost of the production. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, this means higher prices for you and me. Chinese tariffs will be paid by U.S. companies. You see, Trump says tariffs is a tax on foreign companies, but a tariff is a tax on a U.S. company that's importing goods. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you. So Trump says he'll add a 20% tax on everything that comes into this country. Now, this would transfer over to U.S. families because that means prices for us would go up approximately 20%, totaling around $4,000 per year at a minimum. So the best thing to do is if you're planning to make any huge purchases next year, well, you should probably do it now before Trump gets in office, because likely as soon as he gets in office, this might be the first thing that he does. Okay. And if he does that, it's going to cost you much more. Now, he may enact his tariffs unilaterally as soon as he gets in office. Remember, he says his tariffs will range anywhere from 20 to 60%. So this means huge price increases on the U.S., okay, for consumers buying any imported goods. Now, he says he'll replace income tax with tariff revenue. Now, that all sounds good. And when he says things like, oh, I'm going to hit China with tariffs, they're going to pay, we're going to charge them tariffs and this and that, it's time for them to pay. That all sounds good. So basically, I don't know if Trump just thinks it's going to work or if he's just telling a flat out lie. Because, Trump has been known to tell lies. I mean, let's just keep it real. So the best thing to do is pray that his advisors tell him that big tariffs are nefarious, okay? Now, in recent years, the average rate was around 1.7%. In 2019, there was a spike in almost 14% during Trump's previous administration. Now, mind you, this was due to a trade dispute with China. So both the U.S. and China kept putting tariffs back and forth on the other's products. Okay, it was like a trade war. Now, this drove the tariff rate up. So by 2020, the spike had decreased. Okay, now the spike decreased in 2020 with the phase 1 trade agreement between the U.S. and China. So during Trump's previous administration, he used tariffs for trade agreements. Okay, he did this rather than using tariffs for raising government revenue. He only mentions tariffs twice on his website also, because I went and checked. Okay, so he mentioned it twice on there, but he does speak of the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Now, in his Agenda 47, which there's videos about this on Rumble, okay, he discusses the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Now, he says if India, China, or any other country hits us with 100 or 200% tariff on American-made goods, well, he says we'll hit them with the same exact tariff. He says, in other words, 100% is 100%. And if they charge us, well, we're going to charge them. An eye for an eye and a tariff for a tariff. Now, this is literally what he said. This is literally what he said. He says the same exact amount. He says one thing's going to happen, that they'll probably drop the tariffs. But if they don't, it's okay because the U.S. will make plenty of money. Now, this is what Trump says. Now, this is similar to his previous actions, in my opinion, what he did when he was president before, going back and forth with tariffs against, trade barriers in order to reach trade agreements. Now, this is different than putting a general tariff on any and everything. Tariffs are not a large source of the revenue for the U.S. also, by the way. Okay, so when he's saying he's going to replace the income tax with tariffs, that really doesn't make sense according to my calculations. Okay, so prior to his previous administration, it was about 2%. Now, it was about 3 to 4% under Trump, and then 2 to 3% under Biden. Tariff revenue equates to about $80 billion annually. Now, think about that. $80 billion annually. But mind you, he said that he was going to replace income tax with tariffs. And this is why it doesn't make sense. Okay, this is in comparison to $2.4 trillion annually for income tax revenue. So for tariffs to replace the income tax, tariff revenue would have to increase by roughly 30 times. Now, remember, in Trump's previous administration, tariff revenues increased less than 2 times. So replacing the income tax becomes difficult because the more he raises tariffs, he'll discourage imports. That's what will end up happening. And he's putting taxes on imports, which will lead to less imports. With less imports, that means less revenue to be generated by tariffs. Now, mind you, when Trump was talking about all of this, he was basically saying this because he was, the way he explained it is if he were he was basically saying he wants to bring more jobs to the U.S. Okay. And so even if that were to happen, that would not happen in 4 years. That would not be able to even happen within 4 years, at least not in my opinion. Now, if he raises tariff rates, you'll decrease the volume of imports and the total revenue raised may not even increase. It may, in fact, decrease. So the difference in tariff and income revenue means that it's extremely unlikely that Trump can successfully end up replacing the income tax with tariffs. So it's not likely at all to work as far as I'm concerned. So let's just pray that Trump comes to his senses and doesn't even try it. Okay. Because you can't make it make sense, and neither can Trump. Okay. And that's just my assessment. Now, let's just talk about an example. Walmart. Now, they import about 80% of their products, right? So they buy from China, paying in dollars. So let's just say, for example, they order a gadget or a mechanical device, right? The dollar comes in and it's just $1 at this time. Now, Walmart marks the gadget up and then sells it. Tariffs pop up, and then the item reaches the U.S. Okay, when it reaches the border, there's a 10% tariff. Mind you, Trump said he was going to raise tariffs to anywhere between 20 to 60%. Okay, so I'm using a smaller figure. Now, when it reaches the border, there's a 10% tariff. Walmart will then charge the consumer 10% of that dollar. So that's 10 cents for every gadget that arrives. Walmart can either take the loss or they can add the price for consumers. Now, you think they're going to take the loss? Of course not. Okay, they're going to add it to the price of their products that we purchase. So the bottom line is Trump keeps saying China is going to pay for it, but in all actuality, we will. That's how that works. Okay, so please pay attention. Please pay attention. Now, RG Titan said Trump needs to talk to an economist because these tariffs are loony. Right, he does. He needs to talk. And that's what I'm like, why haven't they talked to him and told him this is all crazy? Okay. Green beans, potatoes, tomatoes, you name it, says China ain't paying for nothing. And so, and let me just say this also. So there is a friend of mine who told me that they were talking about their bonus that they're supposed to get, right? their Christmas bonus or something like that they're supposed to get at their job. And so I was trying to tell them this last night, but they weren't understanding what I'm saying. So that's why I did the PowerPoint, so that you all would understand what I'm saying, because they were saying, oh, I talked to my boss about my Christmas bonus, and my boss said that we're not going to get a Christmas bonus this year. We're not going to be able to do it, because Trump's adding these tariffs. And they were like, how does that even make sense? They felt like the boss was lying. And I said, no. Okay, at the end of the day, they will have to compensate for the extra money that it's going to cost them. So they probably won't be able to give you your Christmas bonus. Okay, Queen Sam said, because he's listening to Elon Musk. Well, that's very likely the case. That is very likely the case. Now, Troy says Trump likes to hear himself talk. Right, and here's the thing. We know Trump's a narcissist. How many times have I told you that? And the one thing about narcissists is you can't tell them anything. They think they're always the smartest person in the room. Okay, you can't tell them anything at the end of the day. Okay, so please pay attention. All right, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Consider that your lifeline. So like I said, if you're planning on making any big purchases, you might want to do it before he gets in office. Okay, Roddy said Trump's getting played by Elon. Sunset Night says they're probably the same idiots that voted for him. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to call people idiots, but okay, All Hell No says, isn't China's economy in shambles too? I haven't looked into China's economy, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, this would end up costing American consumers if Trump does it the way that he says he's planning on doing it. Okay, now speaking of Elon Musk, let's talk about it, because Trump has picked Elon Musk Ramaswamy. So let's talk about it. I'm going to share my screen. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. Here we go.
Moments ago.
Hold on, let me put up an overlay.
You see it right there as he heads to the White House this morning to meet with President Biden, then to Capitol Hill. He's also announced nominees for top positions in his administration, including Defense Secretary and CIA Director, also a role for Elon Musk. Rachel Scott starts us off on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. President-elect Donald Trump.
Now, let me just say, I have several questions as to why Elon Musk, well, I'm not going to say why, because it's likely because he has all of this money. Okay, just like Elon Musk, people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, even whether or not they're qualified for any position, they always can get a position because of the money they have, because of their wealth. That's just what it seems like, okay? Because what the hell was Bill Gates doing, having anything to do with the venom, okay? But he has money. And Elon Musk, it's the same thing at the end of the day. I just think they're both nefarious, and I'm not in favor of either of them. But let's continue.
Trump won this election just a week ago, but he is already moving at a rapid pace to fill out his administration, announcing 14 appointments already, 9 alone yesterday. But it's his pick for Secretary of Defense that caught even some Republicans here on Capitol Hill by surprise.
Overnight, President-elect Donald Trump stacking his administration with staunch loyalists, announcing a string of appointments. Trump revealing he has selected Fox and Friends weekend host Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary. The pick even catching some Republicans off guard. The U.S. Army veteran.
Now, I'm sorry, say what? How are you going to pick a journalist? This man works for Fox News. How is he going to be the defense secretary? I'm sorry. This absolutely makes no sense to me. But let's continue.
Who has led 2 conservative veterans groups, would oversee the Pentagon and 1.3 million active duty troops. Hegseth just days ago said he doesn't believe women should be in combat roles.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
He has no.
Now, let me go back to this. So he is clearly a misogynist. Okay? But people want to act like it's the men of my skin tone that are. Please pay attention.
Government experience, but has been a staunch Trump loyalist. Hegseth called on Trump to clean house at the Pentagon, blasting its message of diversity as strength as, quote, garbage.
The Pentagon likes to say, our diversity is our strength. What a bunch of garbage. In the military, our diversity is not our strength. Our unity is our strength.
Now, Here's the thing. The fact that he said that and he's been telling Trump to clean house with the Pentagon, well, that explains why the other day, remember, I told you all that the Pentagon had a meeting and they basically were trying to come up with a game plan in the event that Trump should request something controversial for them. So that's likely why they were having that meeting. Now, please pay attention. Now it's all making sense.
It was just one of many positions Trump named overnight. One of his biggest supporters, billionaire Elon Musk, will lead a new Department of Government Efficiency alongside entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Despite the name, the Department of Government Efficiency doesn't currently exist. Trump says it will provide advice and guidance from outside of government, but there are still questions about how exactly it would operate or be funded. Musk pitched.
I guarantee you whatever Elon Musk is telling Trump is only for his own benefit. Okay? Only for his own benefit. Please pay attention. All right, Red Wine Entertainment says the puppet master's coming to the front. Exactly. Okay. And again, half of y'all wanted Trump so bad. Amazing. Well, I didn't vote for Trump, so there's that. Okay, hold on. Roddy says, this shows you presidents are mere figureheads. The real games are behind the scenes. But I have told you all that. I've told you all that the presidents are nothing more than figureheads. The real show is being run by the global elite, the 1%. It always has been.
The idea directly to Trump earlier this year.
I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love it
if it were formed.
Musk has poured more than $100 million into helping Trump's campaign. And sources tell ABC News he has been at Mar-a-Lago nearly every day since Trump was elected, listening in on calls with foreign leaders and weighing in on staffing decisions. Musk even traveling with the president-elect this morning to Washington, D.C., ahead of Trump's meeting at the White House with President Biden. And as Trump promises to overhaul U.S. intelligence agencies, the president-elect announcing John Ratcliffe, his former director of national intelligence, who served as a fierce loyalist in Congress, will serve as CIA director. And South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem will lead the Department of Homeland Security.
Let's send President Trump back to the White House.
Trump once considered Noem a potential running mate, but she fell off the shortlist after writing in her memoir that she had shot and killed the family dog. If confirmed, Noem would manage the Secret Service, the Coast Guard, and FEMA, along with immigration agencies like Border Patrol and ICE, working hand in hand with Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, to implement Trump's mass deportations.
It is going to be a big operation. And President Trump has already indicated that he wants to start by making sure that we're deporting the most dangerous first.
And rounding out those announcements, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who Trump says will serve as the ambassador to Israel. The president-elect saying Huckabee will work tirelessly to bring about peace in the Middle East.
Just to underscore the influence of Elon Musk, sources telling us this morning he's been weighing in on staffing decisions, sitting in on interviews. We were also learning this morning that President-elect Donald Trump has really struggled with the position of Attorney General, that he has interviewed multiple candidates for that role. He's walked away unsatisfied each time. And of course, the president-elect will be strengthened and emboldened by a Republican Senate majority in just a few hours. Republicans here in the Senate will be choosing a new majority leader. The president-elect keeping his cards very close. He has not weighed in on an endorsement just yet. Michael.
All right, Rachel Scott, thank you so much.
I want to buy.
Okay, so with that all being said, you need to be doing your due diligence. Now, I'm going to have a word from my sponsor before we continue. Lights up, everyone, please like and share.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so with that all being said, you can purchase your 12 tribes at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and also you can find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let's continue.
Javi, you've got the home court advantage, so let's start with you. This potential plan for migrant detention centers, how drastic of a change would this be if and how just the U.S. handles these institutions?
I think it'll be a sweeping change. I think the American public did vote for this. Donald Trump was very upfront about this, but I don't think the American public is prepared for the fallout. I think it will be disruptive to the daily life, but I think the key point, and you know more about this than I do, but I don't see how you pull hundreds of thousands or millions of people out of the American workforce and not have it affect inflation, which is the very reason Donald Trump probably won last week. And so I cannot underscore enough how shocking I think this policy is going to be, and many others.
I also want to know, so let's say they pull all these people, what happens to all their employers, right? If the government is so angry that this has happened, and I get it, these people are here illegally, they should not necessarily be here. What happens to all the people who've been employing them, potentially off the books, potentially not paying taxes? Are they going to face any repercussions? We'll soon find out. Hans, these detention centers, logistically, how would it work logistically? And let's go through financially, politically, because as soon as you say private prisons, you're talking big money.
Yeah, the short answer is I don't know how it works, right? But I agree with sort of Abby's broader point is that if you're going to have mass deportations, the mechanics are going to be messy. And that's going to involve taking people from their places of work, taking people from their homes, and then somehow getting them out of the country. So my read of the article, which of course you guys at NBC wrote and broke, is that there are going to be these sort of midway points before people are actually fully expatriated out of the country. So, it might sound shocking, it might sound stunning, it is, but however the Trump administration ends up doing this, if they're able to do it effectively, and when you look at the numbers, whether it's 11 million or 20 million, which is the number Trump says of migrants who are here without a proper authorization, that is going to be a massive undertaking, and it's going to be messy.
General, new topic. What is your take on Donald Trump's pick for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth? People here know him because of his media, his job in the media, but he is a combat veteran, a Harvard graduate.
Well, look, on the face of it, he's eminently qualified to be Secretary of Defense. He's got tremendous military background. He's been a major force dealing with veterans and their problems. He's been a national security commentator for Fox News, you say, for over 8 years. And as a former professor of government at West Point, presidents are entitled to the officers of government who they choose. And the Republican Senate is going to 100% approve all these people. So his new National Security Council advisor, his nominee for SecDef, and for that matter, the Secretary of State nominee, Marco Rubio, are all first-rate people with policies that will upend U.S. approaches since World War II. And you mentioned the warrior boards purging the generals. That's the most unsettling thing I've heard ever out of the Trump campaign team. Just outrageous. I've been on 2 general officer selection boards. We have no clue what people's political viewpoints are. When a new president's sworn in, the chiefs of services, the chairman of the JCS and the vice chairman, never get fired by the incoming administration. It's presumed they are apolitical and will be loyal in accordance with the law to the incoming commander-in-chief. So that part is extremely troubling.
Let's say he goes through with it, General, and does it, right? Creates this board that makes it easier to get rid of high-ranking officers. How much of a change would that be for our armed forces? Have we ever seen anything like this?
Never done anything like this. Matter of fact, we fire generals when they get political. And then again, the whole notion of woke generals. There are policies in place by the Biden administration that Trump may not agree with. But there's also national security decisions that Trump may not agree with. In the past, we have never said your loyalty to in accordance with the law, to the preceding administration means we're shuffling you off to Buffalo when we take office. It clearly implies the politicization of the senior officers of the armed forces. Not a good thing to do.
Hans, what would that change mean for military leaders in terms of feeling like they can be honest with their superiors and the commander in chief?
Might have a chilling effect. I mean, Barry's going to know a lot better on this, on just the way flag officers talk to each other. I would just note a couple things in the article, and it was a good story. But they're very clear that this is just sort of a draft proposal within the transition efforts. So we don't know whether or not this is going to take place. We do know that Trump has publicly talked about putting generals on notice and firing generals, especially those who are involved in the Afghanistan withdrawal. So there are two separate things going on here. One, Trump's criticism, which has been a large part of his campaign. He ran on it. Of the way certain generals have behaved. He hasn't been that specific on individual generals, but in general, he's talked about it. And then two, this draft document. And again, it's a draft document. Transitions efforts come up with a lot of paper. They don't always make it across the finishing line, but I don't want to presume whether or not this one does or doesn't.
Abby, let's talk about this Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be charged to lead. The fact that it's called that, D-O-G-E, Doge, like Dogecoin, Elon Musk's, beloved cryptocurrency.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so they're talking about UFOs. So let's go to that. It's the House Oversight Committee. They're holding a hearing on UFOs. And thank you, beloved, in the chat. I forgot who it was, but thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so let's go to that real quick.
UAP task force said at a conference this past May that non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing, and there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. But UAPs remain a controversial topic. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals who didn't want this hearing to happen because they feared what might be disclosed. But we stood firm. No amount of outside pressure would ever keep me from pursuing a subject to ground, come hell or high water. On that score, I want to thank our witnesses for being here. We have before us a panel of individuals accomplished in the military, in civilian government, in science, and in journalism. Some of the testimony you will hear them deliver today does not reflect well on influential individuals and agencies within the U.S. federal government and perhaps some of our contractors. It's never easy to present such information publicly. So I appreciate our witnesses voluntarily agreeing to being here today. This hearing is intended to help Congress and the American people to learn the extent of the programs and activities our government has engaged in with respect to UAPs and what knowledge it has yielded. This includes, of course, any knowledge of extraterrestrial life or technology of non-human origin. If government-funded research on UAPs has not yielded any useful knowledge, we also need to know those facts. Taxpayers deserve to know how much has it been invested, how much has been spent. They shouldn't be kept in the dark to spare the Pentagon a little bit of embarrassment. The reality is, despite their enormous taxpayer-funded budgets, the transparency of the Defense Department and the intelligence community have long been abysmal. The Pentagon has failed 6 consecutive audits. In fact, it's never actually passed one. Adding to this is a runaway overclassification of documents and materials, a reluctance to declassify materials when appropriate, and at times an outright refusal to share critical information with Congress. In short, it's not a track record that instills trust. So Congress has tried in recent years to lift the veil and find out if information about UAPs is being withheld, not only from the American public, but also from their elected representatives in Congress. Part of the transparency effort was legislation created in the Pentagon, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, but the new office is struggling to get its footing. A recent statutorily required report from AARO, intended to illuminate the government's historic assessment of UAPs, was heavily criticized by those seeking UAP transparency. The report has stoked suspicions AARO is unable, or perhaps unwilling, to bring forward the truth about the government's activities concerning UAPs. I'm disturbed that AARO itself lacks transparency. Even its budget is kept from the public. So if there is no there, then why are we spending money on it, and by how much? Why the secrecy if it's really no big deal and there's nothing there? Why hide it from the American people? Because I'm not a mathematician, but I can tell you that doesn't add up. I expect some of our witnesses to share their views on that AARO report. We will also hear from the witnesses today allegations of UAP-related misinformation and disinformation by government officials, of which they are personally aware and directly experienced. And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from our colleagues. And one thing I wanted to add at the end of my closing statement is there is a document that will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here on the dais of this document. But this is going to be the original document from the Pentagon about Immaculate Constellation that Michael Schellenberger delivered to Congress today. So thank you, Mr. Schellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the record. But 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist. So with that, I would acknowledge my colleagues, Mr. Garcia. I want to say, first of all, to Mr. Connolly, who cannot be here today, the ranking member on my subcommittee on cybersecurity, I want to say that I was greatly saddened to hear about the recent news of Mr. Connolly's cancer diagnosis. And I want to convey to him and to all of our colleagues, we wish our very best to you and a full and speedy recovery. And with that, I would acknowledge Mr. Garcia for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairwoman. I want to thank the Chairwoman and the Chairman both for their continued support and really treating this this discussion and these hearings in a way that's bipartisan. I think one thing that's very important for all of us that are interested in the conversation around UAPs is that this is an area that both Republicans and Democrats, where we may disagree in a lot of other spaces, this is an area where bipartisanship is really important. And in fact, I would add it's critical that we all continue to work together in a way that moves forward with the truth and important disclosure. So we're here to have a bipartisan and serious conversation, I believe, about our national security. We should always ground these conversations in facts, evidence, and the data in front of us. I want to note that we have our witnesses here. I want to thank you all for being here, and note that also amongst you have folks that have also served us in our military. And I know that for many of you, this has been a difficult process, but I'm very grateful to have you with us today, and thank you for joining us. I also want to note that today's hearing builds on a quite, I think, also historic public hearing that we had many months ago that Mr. Grothman and others helped lead in this very same hearing room, where I believe we began a really important public conversation about UAPs. And so I want to thank him for that, and I especially want to thank Chairwoman Mace for her continued advocacy on this topic. I also want to start with some facts. We know that there are objects or phenomena observed in our airspace, as your witnesses will testify, and also possibly in our oceans. In many cases, we don't know what they are, and this is, of course, why we're discussing UAPs. Now, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, has reported hundreds of UAPs that remain, quote, uncharacterized and unattributed, and which, quote, appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. This is our own AARO office. Now, we shouldn't prejudge what they might be. I'm certainly not going to. We need evidence. But we are detecting things, and we know that we don't understand them, and this is worth investigating. Now, the American people have legitimate questions, and I believe it's critical that Congress should help address them. This is about the truth and science and facts. Now, transparency and faith in our institutions is vital in a good democracy. Now, I'm proud to say that this hearing will build on that important bipartisan work, and I want to thank everyone for being involved, including members of our committee. Now, in our last hearing in July, we heard testimony that a significant number of pilots of major airlines have witnessed UAPs as well, but have no real confidential way of reporting them to the government. We heard that commercial pilots who encounter UAPs may be hesitant to speak openly due to stigma or fear of retaliation. We also know that Aero has reported that, and I want to quote, that most reports still reflect a bias towards restricted military airspace, a result of reporting from military personnel and sensors present in such areas. And so the lack of ability for civilian pilots raises real safety concerns and limits our ability to understand UAPs. This is a particular piece of this conversation that I am very interested in. Now, our last hearing inspired us to introduce the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, joined by Chairman Grothwin, Chairwoman Mace, and a bipartisan group of co-sponsors. I see some of our leaders from Safe Airspace for Americans Act here, and that would create a safe reporting for UAP process, which we want to continue to do. Now, members of both parties and senior officials in multiple administrations have now taken an interest in this issue. Mainstream media, in many cases, are beginning to take more of an interest in this issue, and we should all be proud to carry that work and build confidence for the American people. I believe we can always be more transparent. To me, this hearing and others are simply about the truth and getting to the facts of what these UAPs actually are. It's very important that we show that Democrats and Republicans in Congress can work together to cut through misinformation and look for a serious and thoughtful way to have the discussion in public. Many of us have also called for additional public hearings to discuss UAPs. This should be a topic that continues on throughout the Congress so that we can gather more information, data, and work with the relevant agencies to gather more information. Finally, I just want to add that those that are here on this dais, many of us have participated also in classified briefings as well, and where we have also gained a lot of important, I think, and interesting information, at least I personally have. And so with that information, we want to continue today's hearing, and I thank all of our witnesses for being here. And with that, I'd like to yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And I'd now like to recognize Mr. Grothman for a 5-minute introduction.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here one more time. This is a topic I've been interested in since 8th grade. I'd like to thank Ms. Mace for working with me on this topic and for making this a joint subcommittee hearing. Last year, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border and Foreign Affairs held an historic hearing to understand the potential national security risk of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. We heard from former Navy Commander David Fravor, who shared firsthand experience with a UAP engaged while on duty in the Pacific. We learned from David Gresh, a former member of the intelligence community, who revealed the supposed existence of secret government programs hidden from congressional oversight. Additionally, former military pilot Ryan Graves informed us of the limited ways in which the military and commercial pilots can report UAP sightings. Since that last hearings, I've led several briefings with government agencies to deepen my understanding with these issues. First, the Department of Defense Inspector General's Office informed us that the Department of Defense does not have a streamlined process for service members to report UAP activity. Since then, the Joint Chiefs have implemented standards for UAP reporting across the services. The Intelligence Community Inspector General informed us that whistleblowers often fear retaliation for reporting mismanagement of highly sensitive government projects or information. Finally, AARO has expressed to the committee that, like any other federal government agency, it's faced challenges in its establishment, specifically in hiring staff to manage UAP historical records and coordinating with other federal agencies. Well, these agencies have been helpful to us in understanding the challenges that come from collecting UAP data. None of them have been able to substantiate the claims made at this hearing last year by David Grush. Despite our committee members endlessly questioning these agencies inside and outside of a SCIF. I hope our witnesses today will be able to provide evidence and content that is worthwhile to our pursuits of eliminating government waste and increasing transparency. To help alleviate some of the roadblocks, I'm supportive of measures that were included in last year's National Defense Authorization Act to increase transparency and improve record-keeping measures when it comes to UAPs. But I believe there's still more work to go. I co-led the Safe Airspace for Americans Act with Ranking Member Garcia, which requires the Federal Aviation Administration to develop procedures to collect UAP data from civilian aviators. I look forward to working with members of Congress to see that this legislation and other UAP legislation crosses the finish line. I'm deeply alarmed by the reporting of the massive drone swarm that flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia last December. Langley is the home of the 1st Fighter Wing, which maintains half of the F-22s in the U.S. Air Force inventory. Reports of this incident indicate these drones were roughly 20 feet long, flying more than 100 miles an hour at an altitude of over 3,000 feet. Yet the origin of these drones and their operators remains a mystery. This incident and other sightings near sensitive military installations highlights the complexity of the UAP challenge facing our intelligence, defense, and homeland security committees. Whether these phenomena are the result of foreign adversaries developing advanced technologies or something else entirely, we must take them seriously, investigate them thoroughly, and assess their implications on national defense. The repeated UAP sightings around sensitive military sites underscores the need for innovative defensive strategies beyond traditional measures. They also highlight the urgent need for updated policies to address emerging threats, as well as more effective interagency cooperation and intelligence sharing. However, none of this is going to be possible without transparency. For far too long, critical information about UAPs has been either classified or ignored, leaving the American public and key congressmen without clarity needed to make informed decisions. Declassifying reports and fostering a more open dialogue about UAPs will not only increase the public trust, but also encourage collaboration between government, the scientific community, and our allies. Quite frankly, there's been things that have been kept secret that is, I think, old enough that there is no reason it shouldn't be released, regardless of any so-called, private information. A transparent approach will allow us to share insights, identify patterns, and develop new strategic defenses. As we continue to investigate these phenomena, we must do so with a mindset of protecting our country, advancing scientific discovery, and upholding the trust of the American people, who right now I don't think have trust. And it's just obvious I don't have trust. We cannot shy away from the unknown, especially when the stakes are so high. I look forward to discussing these matters with the witnesses today. I'm hopeful we can learn from the testimony and come out of this hearing with actionable ideas to advance UAP transparency. Actually, the idea is just to say, in my mind, go back 15 years and everything has to be released. I'm hopeful that we can learn from their testimony and come out of this hearing. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. I'll now recognize Mr. Moskowitz for a 5-minute introduction.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning, everyone. I first want to thank the chairs and ranking members for holding the hearing today on this topic and again having a second hearing. I want to thank the witnesses for coming forward today to share your expertise on UAPs and the need to build trust through transparency. But first, I want to mention, you might be wondering why Chairman Comer has allowed me to be a ranking member today, but it's really only because our dear friend Jerry Connolly is not here. As Chairwoman Mace mentioned, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and all of us on this committee know Jerry, and he's a fighter, and we're praying for him and hoping for his speedy recovery. So today's hearing marks this committee's second meeting dedicated to UAP transparency. I was pleased, as I know all of us are, on the bipartisanship that existed in last year's hearing, and even though we can't talk about what happens in the classified settings, the bipartisanship that has existed in those settings with the questions members have asked. Last year's hearing was a great example of open dialogue about UAPs, and we must remain committed to sharing information with the American people. And I think you see that commitment based on the people here and the commitment across the political spectrum. I personally have worked with multiple members of this committee but I want to particularly thank Congressman Burchett, Mace, Luna, and Garcia for working on bipartisan pieces of legislation. In recent years, Congress has taken numerous bipartisan steps towards greater transparency. In 2022, in the NDAA, we created the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office to investigate unidentified flying objects. Following Aero, along with ODNI, released an unclassified report on UAP sightings. Of the 366 sightings included in the report, 171 remain uncharacterized, with some of these appearing to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. That's a nice way of saying we don't want to tell you what they are. In March, Aero revealed a report on the historical record of U.S. government involvement with UAPs, which covered investigatory efforts going back from 1945 to the present day. Earlier this year, I joined Congressman Burchett to introduce the UAP Transparency Act, which would require the declassification of all documents related to UAPs, with many other members of this committee. In fiscal year 2024, the NDAA required the National Archives and Records Administration to establish the Unidentified Anonymous Phenomena Records Collection. This collection will include digital copies of all unidentified UAP records that can be publicly disclosed. This commitment in transparency is vitally important, and unnecessary overclassification has led to a void of information, which has allowed theories over the decades to foster. When the American people and members of Congress ask, are reports of UAPs credible, we're met with stonewalling. We're met with responses of, I can't tell you. And in fact, we're met with people not wanting us to have hearings. We're met with people not wanting us to ask you questions. In fact, many of us were told not to ask some of you certain questions on certain topics. In a time of heightened distrust of our government institutions, I believe more transparency is not only needed, but is possible. And obviously we can respect national security limits, but we also have to provide our constituents with the information and oversight that they have tasked us for.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. At the end of the day, Rashid says Project Blue Book, also known as Blue Beam, and Project Maitreya. Yes, I actually did a video on Project Blue Beam on the Spiritual Channel. Maybe I'll upload that on here later on today. Now, with that all being said, let's get ready to watch Biden and Trump meeting. But before we do, let's talk about this Yale psychiatrist who urges MSNBC viewers to shun Trump voting family members over the holidays. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
Suppose someone voted that way. Do you recommend, just from a psychological standpoint, being around them? We got the holidays coming up.
So I love that you asked this question because, you know, there is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
I'm going to say this again.
Okay, so with that all being said, what do you all think about what she just said? Because I think that's idiotic. Okay, I think that's idiotic because here's the thing. Everybody has to make their own choices and decisions. Now, if someone made a choice that they felt was best for them, I'm sure they weren't thinking about you when they did so. And also, some people vote when they don't have accurate information or they're misinformed. So what do? Shun them, talk trash to them, you know, make them feel bad? Or do you try to educate and inform them so that they make better choices next time? At the end of the day, being divisive, which is what a lot of people are doing, in my opinion, that's just nonsensical and quite frankly idiotic. This is the time where people need to be unifying. Okay, this is a time where people need to be unifying. So for people who think that they need to shun people or fall out with people, at the end of the day, those people don't respect you. That's what they don't do. Those people don't respect you, because if they did, whether they felt like you were right or wrong, they could sit down and have a conversation with you. And if there were some disagreements, then you should be able to come to common ground once you have a discussion. But to just be angry and mad and going in on people when I'm sure that other people have voted against other people's interests in the past. Okay, D-Man says it's all madness. Yes, it is. Love Her said, I'm sick of fear-mongering. Exactly. Okay, and Caribbean Tasha says she's just being divisive. Yes, she is being divisive. And anyone who's being divisive because of the election is an idiot. Okay, I don't care who it is. If it's your mother, your father, your friends, whomever. If they're being divisive because of the election not going their way, or they feel like you voted for, a choice that wasn't theirs, that's idiotic. Okay, because at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. Everybody has to do things the way they see fit. And like I said, if they think that somebody made the wrong choice, well, then sit down and talk to them about it. And Melody says it's manipulation. That's exactly what it is. You see, when people don't like your ideology and they want to enforce their opinions and beliefs on you, they will use manipulation tactics. That's what they do. And those are narcissistic traits. Not saying that these people are narcissists, but they have narcissistic traits. Because I'm right, you're wrong, and you didn't do what I wanted you to do. So that's the end of that. That's ridiculous. Okay, it's always worthy of having a conversation, and especially if it's your family members. So you're going to cut off your family members because they made a mistake as far as you're concerned, or they didn't do what you felt they should have done. That's just ridiculous. Okay, so with that all been said, honey, you can't tell some people anything because some people think they know everything. Okay, and in some cases they may be right and you may be wrong. But the bottom line is it should be worthy of a conversation if they ever cared about you at all. Okay, so now we're going to go to this meeting with Trump and Biden. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. And you're absolutely right. Brand Slayer TV said it's foolish. And Sierra said Blue MAGA is very divisive. Yes, of course they are. Okay, exactly they are. How are they any better than the Trump supporters that they talked about when saying they were divisive? They're just the same. Period.
Now reporting, David Muir.
Good morning. We're coming on the air because we're about to get our first look at today's White House meeting between President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump, the two sitting down in the Oval Office just a short time ago. This is Donald Trump's first time back in the White House since he left Washington in January 2021. There has been no shortage of harsh words, obviously, from either side for the other. President Biden inviting Trump to the White House after his election victory over Vice President Kamala Harris. There was no White House meeting after Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in 2020. President Biden committing to uphold the peaceful transfer of power. This meeting comes as Donald Trump moves quickly with his transition team at Mar-a-Lago, building his new administration. He's already filling top positions, including naming his chief of staff, deputy chiefs of staff, UN ambassador, and Homeland Security chief. Last night, he also revealed Fox News weekend host and Army veteran Pete Hegseth as his choice for defense secretary. We also know Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will play major roles in the new administration, creating the Department of Government Efficiency. It will likely exist outside the federal government with its expected focus to cut many government agencies. President-elect Trump has vowed on day one to rescind a number of President Biden's executive orders, including those concerning immigration. As they meet in the White House, Republicans on the Hill, meantime, are deciding on new leadership in Congress, who will be the next Senate Majority Leader, with Mitch McConnell stepping down. Before arriving at the White House, President-elect Trump meeting with the House GOP conference. He congratulated them on the election, saying, "Isn't it nice to win?" On Capitol Hill today, Senate Republicans are expected to vote on that new Senate Majority Leader. Up against Senator John Thune and John Cornyn. Trump has not publicly endorsed any of them. President-elect Trump will take the oath of office a little more than 2 months from now. Let's go to the Oval Office. We'll look at the pictures here in just a moment. This is President Biden, obviously, and President-elect Donald Trump, the invitation extended by Biden. Let's look. Here we are, right?
Thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having a, like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So, good. Welcome.
Thank you
Back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
can't blame them for not trying. They're the reporters in the Oval Office asking questions of the President-elect Trump right there and of President Biden, smiling at each other, but not taking the bait, if you will, any of the questions inside that room. You heard President Biden say to the President-elect, we want to make sure you have a smooth transition of power. We're here to help you with anything that you need. The President-elect saying politics is tough, that the world is not a nice place, but it is a nice place today. Certainly appreciating the extension from President Biden to make this transfer as peaceful as possible. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, also watching these images as they're coming in. And Mary, as you look at the image, it's quite notable. President Trump did not extend this courtesy 4 years ago when Biden beat him. President Biden, in an effort to strike a new tone moving forward, extending that invitation today.
David, this is something we haven't seen in 8 years, and yet the president felt it was very important for the world to see this, to see these images, and for him to be able to reiterate and underscore his commitment to a peaceful and smooth transition. And it was clear, I was in the room there as the pool reporter today in the Oval for that, and it really felt like both the president-elect and the president, after this bitter, hard-fought campaign, were really trying to bring down the temperature there. As you noted, Donald Trump mentioning, look, politics is a tough business, but they are trying to move forward. And it is interesting to hear Donald Trump there in this meeting, a ritual that he did not afford President Biden 4 years ago, but saying that he appreciates this outreach, that he appreciates moving forward for a smooth transition ahead, David.
Mary, stick with us. I'll come back to you in just a moment. John Carl, you're also watching along. I know you were there when then President Obama extended the invitation to the president-elect Donald Trump for his first term in office.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, these are two moments that are extremely rare in the life and career of Donald Trump. Two moments where he is not the person driving the conversation. He is not the person who is convening the meeting. You see, Joe Biden there welcome him, short, gracious remarks, and short and gracious remarks from Donald Trump. Very similar to what we saw almost exactly, David, 8 years ago when Barack Obama invited Trump to come to the White House. Back then, it was just 2 days after the 2016 election. And a very similar scene at that point. Donald Trump actually said that he would be seeking counsel of President Obama as he started his administration. And I asked him a question at the time, and it was the one question that was answered. I was like, are you really going to seek counsel from Barack Obama? And he said, yes, he would. And I'll tell you, the graciousness didn't last long back then. It was another obviously bitter campaign. We'll see how long the graciousness lasts this time.
John Carl, I appreciate it. Let's get right to the Hill. Rachel Scott, a lot of news on Capitol Hill. The president-elect was there just a short time ago. Now, of course, at the White House with President Biden. That's the spray from the beginning of the meeting. I presume the meeting continues between the two, President Biden, President-elect Trump. But significant for a number of reasons at the White House. Also significant, his visit to the Hill just a short time ago.
Exactly, David. Before that face-to-face meeting between President Biden and also President-elect Donald Trump, the president-elect was here near Capitol Hill. He was meeting with House Republicans behind closed doors. And I'm told right off the bat, you had Speaker Johnson acknowledge that the coattails, in his word, were enormous, that not only having President-elect Donald Trump at the top of the ticket for Republicans got them the majority in the Senate, that they believe they are inching closer to a strong majority, although it may be small, over in the House. I am told by multiple members who were in the room that the president-elect also praised Speaker Johnson. He also said that, I suspect I won't be running again unless you say he's so good, we've got to figure something else out. Multiple members inside that room told me that was intended to be a joke, that several people also chuckled in that room as well. But of course, just on the other side of the chamber, you have Senate Republicans who will be electing their new majority leader right now. This is a Republican conference that is going to be strengthened with President-elect Donald Trump at the White House. And as this is all playing out, David, also House Democrats meeting for the first time behind closed doors. And in his very first acknowledgement, Leader Jeffries did acknowledge to House Democrats that he does feel that it is very unlikely that the House is going to flip in their favor. He says that the buck stops with him, and he looks forward to trying to retake the majority back in 2026, David.
Yeah, the math looks extraordinarily difficult. Looks like the Republicans will hold on to the House as well. They'll control the Senate and, of course, the White House. One of those rare moments in Washington when all three are under the same party. Rachel, thank you. Quite a split screen from 24 hours ago. I want to go back to this image from just yesterday. Vice President Kamala Harris returning to the White House for the first time to have lunch with President Biden, and she was greeted by hundreds of workers at the White House and the old executive office building. Let's listen to the Nat sound here for just a moment. It happens every 4 years. There are winners and losers in these presidential elections. She thanked the team gathered there, and she said there was still a lot of work to get done, but that she was grateful for their support. Mary Bruce, any reporting on the lunch between President Biden and the vice president, the words that they might have shared?
Yeah, this private meeting between the two of them, this luncheon, the first really extended time that the president and the vice president have had alone together since the election. The White House, not surprisingly, not reading out too many details of that. This was a private conversation between the two of them. The vice president, we know, is back at work. She's meeting, we are told, with staff and aides today. She notably is not a part of this Oval Office meeting today. You can imagine that would have been a bit uncomfortable. And the White House stressing today is really about a chance for the president and the president-elect to meet. But it was hard not to look at those images yesterday and see that she clearly was touched by the outpouring of support from her staff, and yet stressing there's still a lot of work to do, David.
Mary, thank you. Let's get back to the pictures of the moment, the news at this hour. Again, President Biden meeting in the Oval Office with President-elect Donald Trump, the president extending his hand right there, and the invitation to the president-elect, a courtesy that was not extended 4 years ago. President Biden saying in front of the cameras, we are here for a peaceful transfer of power to make sure you have everything you need as you enter into your administration. President-elect Trump saying politics is tough. He said in many ways the world is not a nice place, but it is a nice world today in that moment with President Biden. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live, abcnews.com. I'll be back with the entire team for World News Tonight. I'm David Muir in New York. I'll see you a little later today. Have a good day.
All right, so there you all have it, beloveds. At the end of the day, so a peaceful transition of power, unlike the last time, January the 6th. With that all being said, DJ Big Six says photo opportunity. Okay, so listen, I'm about to be out of here. I hope you all got something out of the live, okay? Pay attention to what I told you about the tariffs. And with that all being said, let's not be divisive, okay? It's ridiculous and nonsensical. It's not going to help your situation either. Okay, the election is already over. I repeat, the election is already over. So with that all being said, the best thing to do is to move forward. Okay, think positive and do your due diligence. And remember that through manifestation and visualization, you can actually create your own reality. But if you want to think low vibrational and you want to think in a pessimistic mindset and hold on to negative thoughts, then that's what you will attract. Okay, so please pay attention. With that all been said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got